The sun had not yet risen, but Elena was already awake. Her small room was cold, and the sound of rainwater dripping through the roof reminded her of all the repairs she could not afford. She quietly stood up, careful not to wake her little daughter, Lily, who was curled up on the old mattress beside her. Elena's life had never been easy, but after her husband abandoned them, it became almost unbearable. She worked long hours cleaning houses, washing clothes, and sometimes selling bread on the street. Still, the money was never enough. Rent was overdue, bills piled up, and Lily's school fees were unpaid. That morning, Elena checked her wallet. Only a few coins stared back at her. Her heart sank. How will I feed Lily today? She thought. She forced a smile when Lily woke up, pretending everything was fine. Mama, can we have milk today? Lily asked, her innocent eyes shining with hope. Elena swallowed hard. She wanted to cry, but instead, she brushed her daughter's hair and said softly, "Yes, my love. Mama will find a way." Later that day, Elena searched for extra work. She went from shop to shop, but no one was hiring. By evening, her legs ached, her hands were sore, and her spirit felt heavy. Just as she was about to give up, a neighbor stopped her. "Elena," the woman whispered, glancing around as if sharing a secret, "I heard of a strange job. A wealthy man needs someone to take care of him. He was injured in an accident and can't manage on his own. They say, he even needs someone to bathe him." Elena froze. The thought shocked her. Bathe him? That's not a job for a woman like me. The neighbor shrugged. "It pays well. Enough to cover food, rent, maybe even your child's medicine. But it is humiliating, Elena. Think carefully." Elena's chest tightened. She hated the thought. She hated the idea of serving a man in such a private way. But when she thought of Lily's thin face and hungry stomach, her pride began to crumble. That night, Elena lay awake beside her sleeping daughter. The rain tapped against the roof, and her mind raced. How far can a mother go to protect her child? How much can I sacrifice? She closed her eyes tightly. She remembered the way Lily had asked for milk, the way her small hands clutched her stomach when she was hungry. Elena's heart broke again and again. By morning, her decision was made. The next day, Elena walked nervously into a grand mansion she had never seen before. The gates were tall, the gardens endless, and the house itself looked like a palace. She felt small, out of place, as if she had stepped into another world. Inside, a maid led her to the master's room. "This is Mr. Adrian Carter," the maid said, her tone cold. Elena's eyes fell on the man lying in bed. Adrian Carter, the billionaire. Everyone in the city knew his name. He was young, handsome, and incredibly wealthy, but his reputation was not kind. People called him arrogant, proud, and heartless. Now, he looked at Elena with sharp eyes, though his body seemed weak. His arm was bandaged, and one of his legs was in a cast. "So," Adrian said slowly, his voice dripping with arrogance, "you're the woman they sent to assist me." Elena's cheeks burned with shame, but she nodded. "Yes, sir. I will do my best." He smirked, his eyes scanning her simple clothes. "You don't look like much. But I suppose I have no choice." Elena's hands clenched, but she stayed silent. She had promised herself, no matter how much humiliation she faced, she would endure it for Lily. When she left the mansion later that evening, Elena's body felt heavy. The job was harder than she expected, and Adrian's prideful attitude made every moment painful. He mocked her silence, teased her poverty, and treated her like a servant. Still, when she opened her hand, the money they gave her was more than she had earned in a month of cleaning houses. She stared at it, tears filling her eyes. That night, Elena bought milk, bread, and fruit for Lily. For the first time in weeks, her daughter ate until she was full. Lily hugged her mother tightly and whispered, "Thank you, Mama. You're the best." Elena held her child, her heart aching. She knew she had sacrificed her pride, but seeing Lily smile again gave her strength. Yet deep inside, she wondered, how long can I keep doing this? How much more must I endure? She didn't know that this humiliating job, this desperate choice, would soon change her life forever. The next morning, Elena walked through the tall gates of Adrian's mansion again. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her small bag. She had spent the whole night thinking about whether she was strong enough to do this. But when she looked at Lily's peaceful face while sleeping, she knew she had no choice. Inside the mansion, everything felt cold and silent. The servants moved around quickly, but none of them looked her in the eyes. Some even smirked as she passed, whispering to each other. Elena lowered her gaze, ignoring their judgment. She was not here for their approval, she was here for her daughter. When she entered Adrian's room, she found him sitting upright in bed, a newspaper in one hand and a frown on his face. His injured leg rested on pillows, and his arm was still in a sling. "You're late," Adrian said without looking at her. Elena checked the clock on the wall. She was exactly on time. But instead of arguing, she bowed her head and said, "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again." Adrian finally looked at her, his sharp eyes studying her face. There was no makeup, no fancy clothes, only a tired but determined woman. Something about her quiet strength unsettled him, though he quickly pushed the thought away. The work began. The first task was preparing Adrian's bath. Elena filled the tub with warm water, her hands shaking slightly. She had never done anything like this before. Every movement felt heavy, every second filled with shame. When Adrian entered, supported by a servant, he smirked at her discomfort. "You look nervous. Haven't you done this before?" Elena kept her eyes lowered. "No, sir. I usually clean houses, not this." He chuckled coldly. "Then consider this an upgrade. Serving me should be an honor." His arrogance stung, but Elena stayed silent. She reminded herself of Lily's smile the night before. That memory gave her courage. She gently helped Adrian into the water, careful not to touch him more than necessary. He watched her closely, amused by her determination to stay professional. "You're different from the others," he said suddenly. Elena froze. "Others?" "The nurses," he explained casually. "They pretended to care, but all they wanted was my money. You, however, you look like you'd rather be anywhere else." Elena's lips tightened. "I'm only here because I need to feed my daughter." Her honesty caught him off guard. Most people tried to impress him, flatter him, or hide their struggles. But this woman spoke the truth without fear. Adrian leaned back in the water, studying her with interest. Later, when the bath was done and Adrian was dressed again, he asked suddenly, "Tell me about this daughter of yours." Elena hesitated. She didn't want to share her life with him. But something in his tone, curiosity, not mockery, made her answer softly. "Her name is Lily. She is 6 years old. She loves to draw, even when we cannot afford paper. She is the reason I wake up every morning." For a moment, Adrian's eyes softened, but he quickly masked it with a smirk. "So you endure all this humiliation, for a child?" Elena straightened, her voice steady. "For my child, I would endure anything." Those words echoed in Adrian's mind long after she left the room. That evening, as Elena walked out of the mansion, one of the maids whispered loudly enough for her to hear, "Imagine, a mother bathing the master like a servant. How low can she go?" Elena's cheeks burned, but she kept walking. She clutched her small envelope of payment tightly, reminding herself of the food she could buy for Lily. When she reached home, Lily ran into her arms. "Mama, did you work today?" Elena nodded, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Yes, my love. And I bought you something." She handed Lily a small notebook and a few colored pencils. Lily's eyes sparkled with joy. "Thank you, Mama. Now I can draw every day." Elena smiled through her tears. The humiliation she faced that morning faded in her heart when she saw her daughter's happiness. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Adrian lay awake in his bed. He couldn't stop thinking about Elena's words, about the way she looked at him without fear or greed. "Endure anything, for her child," he whispered to himself. For the first time in years, Adrian Carter felt something he didn't recognize, respect. He didn't know it yet, but the woman he had mocked as different was about to change his life in ways he could never have imagined. Days turned into weeks, and Elena continued to return to the mansion. Every morning, she walked past the whispering servants, past the polished marble floors, and into Adrian's room. Each time, her heart felt heavy with shame, but her mind reminded her of Lily's smile waiting at home. At first, Adrian treated her the same way, cold, proud, and mocking. He threw sharp words at her, tested her patience, and tried to see if she would break. But no matter how much he tried, Elena never complained. She did her work with calm dignity. One morning, Adrian grew frustrated. "Why do you stay so quiet? Don't you want to defend yourself? Don't you hate me for making you do this humiliating job?" Elena lifted her chin slightly, her voice steady. "Hate will not feed my daughter. Pride will not pay her school fees. I do this because I must, not because I want to." Her answer left Adrian silent. No one had ever spoken to him so directly without fear. Slowly, cracks began to form in the walls around his heart. He started noticing the little things about Elena. How her hands were rough from hard work but gentle when she helped him. How her eyes carried tiredness but also a quiet strength. How she refused to take more money than agreed, even when he tried to test her. One evening, after she finished her work, Adrian placed an extra envelope on the table. "Take this. For your trouble." Elena shook her head. "No, sir. You already pay me. I don't want more." Adrian raised a brow. "Are you refusing money from me? Do you know how rare that is?" Elena looked him straight in the eye. "I don't need charity. I just need enough to take care of my child." For the first time, Adrian felt something unfamiliar, shame. He had always believed money could buy anything, respect, loyalty, even love. But this woman in front of him proved him wrong. Later that week, Adrian overheard two servants gossiping in the hall. "She only comes here for the money. Probably lying about that daughter of hers." "Yes," the other agreed. "I bet she spends it on herself." Adrian expected Elena to defend herself, but she simply walked past them, silent as ever. That night, curiosity burned inside him. He wanted to know if their words were true. So the next day, after Elena left, Adrian called his driver. "Follow her. I want to know where she goes." The driver returned with a report. Adrian read it quietly, and his heart tightened. Elena had gone straight to a small apartment on the edge of the city. She had bought bread, milk, and medicine with the money she earned. Then she spent the evening with her daughter, helping her with homework, making her laugh, and tucking her into bed. Adrian sat in silence for a long time, staring at the papers. He was a man who had everything: wealth, power, respect. Yet, this woman, who had nothing, lived with more honor and love than anyone he had ever known. The next morning, Adrian tried something different. As Elena prepared his bath, he asked casually, "What does your daughter like?" Elena glanced at him, unsure if it was another trick. "She likes to draw. She dreams of becoming an artist." Adrian tilted his head. "And you let her dream?" Elena's eyes softened. "Dreams are the only things I can give her for free. I want her to believe she can reach the stars, even if we are stuck on the ground." Her words pierced through Adrian's chest. For the first time in years, he felt small. That evening, when Elena returned home, she found a small package outside her door. Inside was a set of art supplies, colored pencils, sketchbooks, and paints. Lily's eyes widened with joy. "Mama, look. Someone sent me magic." Elena's heart raced. She had no doubt who sent it. She bit her lip, torn between gratitude and anger. She didn't want to be anyone's charity case, yet the happiness in her daughter's eyes was priceless. Meanwhile, Adrian sat by his window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about business deals or money. He was thinking about a little girl's smile, and her mother's unshakable dignity. The walls around his heart were breaking, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to rebuild them. One cold evening, Elena rushed into the mansion later than usual. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying, but she said nothing as she quietly began her work. Adrian noticed immediately. "You're late again," he said, his voice sharper than he intended. Elena bowed her head. "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again." But Adrian saw the tremble in her hands. She was different today, quieter, weaker. He frowned. "What happened?" "Nothing," she whispered. She tried to hide her pain, but her silence only made Adrian more restless. For the first time, He didn't want to hear excuses. He wanted the truth. "Look at me," he demanded. "Tell me what's wrong." Elena lifted her eyes slowly, and the strength he had always seen in them was now cracked with fear. "My daughter, she is sick. The doctor says she needs more medicine. I don't know how I will pay for it." Adrian's chest tightened. He had heard her speak of her daughter many times, but he had never seen her so broken. That night, after Elena left, Adrian couldn't sleep. He paced his room, remembering her trembling voice. Something inside him stirred, a feeling he had long buried. Guilt. The next morning, Adrian told his driver to take him to the small hospital Elena often visited. When he arrived, he saw her through the window of a crowded waiting room. She sat on a wooden bench, holding Lily in her arms. Lily's tiny face was pale, her little body weak, but she still smiled up at her mother. "Mama, don't cry. I'll be okay." Elena kissed her forehead, trying to stay strong. "Yes, my love. You'll be okay." Adrian stood there in the shadows, watching. For the first time, he didn't see Elena as just a worker. He saw her as a mother fighting alone in a cruel world. Later, when Elena arrived at the mansion again, Adrian confronted her gently. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Elena stiffened. "Because I don't need your pity." "This isn't pity," Adrian argued. He stopped, realizing he didn't know how to explain the storm in his chest. Elena's eyes burned with quiet fire. "You think money can solve everything. But sometimes, respect is worth more than gold. I don't want my daughter to grow up thinking her mother survived only because a rich man threw coins at her." Her words cut deeper than Adrian expected. He felt stripped of all power, all pride. For once, his money meant nothing. That evening, Elena returned home to find her landlord waiting at the door. His face was stern. "You're behind on rent again, Elena," he said coldly. "If you don't pay by the end of the week, you and your child will have to leave." Elena's heart sank. She begged, "Please, just a few more days. I'm working, I'll pay." But the landlord only shrugged. No more chances. Inside their small apartment, Elena sat on the bed holding Lily close. She whispered softly, "I'm sorry, my darling. Mama is trying." Lily, though weak, smiled and patted her mother's face. "You're the best mama in the world." Tears rolled down Elena's cheeks. She had endured so much, but now everything seemed to be crashing down at once. Meanwhile, Adrian sat alone in his study, staring at the untouched glass of wine on his desk. He could still hear Elena's voice in his head, "I don't need your pity. I need respect." For years, people had bowed before him, desperate for his money. Yet this woman, who had every reason to beg, refused to let him buy her dignity. It was the first time in his life that Adrian Carter felt powerless. And in that powerlessness, something unexpected bloomed inside him, admiration. The next day, Elena arrived for work looking more tired than ever. Her face was pale, her shoulders heavy with worry. Adrian wanted to speak, to tell her he would fix everything, but he stopped himself. If he offered money again, she would only push him away. Instead, he asked softly, "How is she?" Elena's lips trembled. "She smiles even when she's sick. She tells me not to cry. But inside, I am breaking, sir. I don't know how long I can hold on." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, Adrian reached out, not with money, but with words. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever met." Elena blinked, surprised. No mockery, no arrogance. Just truth. In that moment, something shifted between them. A silent understanding passed in the air. Neither of them knew it yet, but their lives were about to change forever. The days that followed were different. For the first time in years, Adrian Carter woke up not thinking about business deals or stock prices, but about a little girl's smile and the quiet strength of her mother. He remembered Elena's words, "I don't need your pity. I need respect." Those words echoed in his mind again and again. They forced him to look at himself in the mirror. He had lived his whole life believing money could buy anything. But here was a woman who proved him wrong every single day. Adrian decided it was time to change, not for her approval, but because he wanted to become a man worthy of the respect she demanded. The change began in small ways. The next morning, when Elena entered his room, she braced herself for his usual cold remarks. But instead, Adrian greeted her with a calm, "Good morning." Elena froze for a moment, then gave a short nod. "Good morning, sir." As she prepared his bath, she noticed he wasn't smirking or mocking her. He sat quietly, watching her work with thoughtful eyes. When she finished, he said softly, "Thank you." It was just 2 words, but they shook her more than any insult ever had. Later that week, Adrian asked his driver to stop at a small toy store. He spent nearly an hour choosing items carefully: a teddy bear, a box of puzzles, and a set of storybooks. The staff stared in shock. The mighty Adrian Carter, who never had time for such things, was standing there debating which bedtime story a 6-year-old girl might enjoy. That evening, when Elena arrived home, she found a package waiting by her door. Inside were the toys and books, along with a simple note, "For Lily, from a friend." Lily squealed with joy and hugged her mother tightly. "Mama, look what came. Who sent it?" Elena's heart knew the answer, but she whispered, "Maybe a kind angel." She smiled through her tears as she watched her daughter's happiness. Meanwhile, Adrian began visiting Lily in secret. He didn't announce himself as a billionaire. He came quietly, wearing simple clothes, and brought food and medicine. At first, Elena resisted. "You don't have to do this," she told him firmly. Adrian shook his head. "I'm not doing this out of pity. I'm doing it because she deserves it. And so do you." For the first time, Elena saw sincerity in his eyes, something pure and unpolished. Slowly, she allowed him to step into their world. One evening, Adrian sat with Lily on the floor of their small apartment, helping her with a puzzle. Lily giggled as she placed the final piece. "You're good at this," she said, clapping her hands. Adrian laughed softly, a sound Elena had never heard before. "I've been practicing," he joked. Elena stood at the door, watching quietly. For years, she had carried the weight of survival alone. And now, for the first time, she saw someone willingly share that burden. Her heart felt strange, part fear, part hope. Could she trust him? But rumors soon began to spread. Some of Adrian's business rivals and even his own servants whispered that he was lowering himself, wasting time on a poor woman. One evening, a wealthy guest at the mansion sneered openly. "Adrian Carter, the great billionaire, playing family with a servant? Have you lost your mind?" Adrian's jaw tightened. In the past, he might have laughed along. But now, he stood tall. "Respect is not measured by wealth," he said firmly. "And that woman has more dignity than anyone I've ever met." The guest laughed, but Adrian no longer cared. Elena, however, heard about the whispers. One night, as Adrian left their apartment after reading Lily a bedtime story, she stopped him at the door. "People are talking," she said quietly. "They say you're only using us for your amusement." Adrian's eyes darkened. "Do you believe them?" Elena hesitated. Her heart wanted to trust him, but her past had taught her to be careful. "I don't know what to believe," she admitted. Adrian took a deep breath. "Then let me prove it, not with money, not with gifts, but with my actions. Just give me time." That night, Elena lay awake, torn between fear and hope. She had seen him change, truly change, but a voice inside her still whispered, "What if it's all temporary? What if he leaves and breaks us both?" Yet when she looked at Lily sleeping peacefully, clutching the teddy bear Adrian had given her, she felt a spark of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Hope. And hope, she knew, was the most dangerous and the most beautiful thing of all. Weeks passed, and Adrian's presence in Elena's life grew stronger. He visited often, not as a billionaire, but as a man who cared. He read Lily bedtime stories, carried groceries up the broken stairs of their apartment, and even helped Elena fix a leaking pipe in the kitchen. But still, Elena kept her guard up. Her heart, scarred by years of struggle, was afraid to trust. She had seen promises break before, and she could not risk letting Lily's little heart be broken too. Adrian understood her fear, but he didn't give up. Instead of grand speeches, he showed his sincerity through actions. Every day, little by little, he chipped away at the walls she had built around her heart. One evening, disaster struck. Lily's condition suddenly worsened. Elena rushed her to the hospital, her hands trembling as she carried her weak child. Adrian arrived minutes later, his face pale with worry. The doctor pulled them aside. The child needs proper treatment immediately. Without it, her condition will only decline. Elena's heart sank. But I don't have enough money. Before she could finish, Adrian stepped forward. Do whatever it takes. I'll cover everything. Elena shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No. I told you, I don't want your pity. Adrian grabbed her hands gently, his voice steady. This isn't pity. This is love. Elena froze. The words hit her harder than any storm. Adrian's eyes burned with truth. Elena, from the first day you walked into my home, I thought you were just another worker. But you are stronger than anyone I've ever known. You showed me dignity, you showed me sacrifice, and you showed me what love really means. I don't want to save you with money, I want to stand beside you with my heart. Elena's lips trembled, her walls cracking at last. For the first time, she saw not the billionaire, but the man who had chosen to change, for her, and for Lily. The treatment began immediately. Adrian stayed by their side day and night. He brought food, told Lily funny stories, and held Elena's hand when fear overwhelmed her. Slowly, Lily grew stronger. The color returned to her cheeks, her laughter filled the hospital room again, and she began to draw pictures of her little family, always including Adrian. One day, Lily looked at her mother and whispered, "Mama, can he stay with us forever?" Elena's heart ached. She looked at Adrian, who was quietly helping Lily color a picture. His suit jacket was folded neatly on the chair, his sleeves rolled up, and for the first time, he looked less like a billionaire and more like home. A week later, Adrian made a bold move. He invited Elena and Lily to his mansion, not as workers, but as guests. The servants stared in shock as Adrian walked proudly with Elena by his side and Lily holding his hand. Rumors spread like wildfire, but Adrian didn't care. In the grand hall, Adrian turned to Elena. I once lived in this house filled with wealth but no warmth. You brought light into my world. Elena, I don't just want to help you, I want to build a life with you. Will you let me? Tears streamed down Elena's face. She remembered the arrogant man she had once bathed out of desperation, and now she saw a man who had bathed in humility, who had been cleansed by love. She whispered softly, yes. Months later, the mansion looked different. It was no longer cold and silent. It was filled with Lily's laughter, Elena's gentle presence, and Adrian's smile. He still ran his businesses, but every evening, he came home to read Lily's stories or eat Elena's home-cooked meals. The man who once believed money could buy everything had discovered the one thing it never could, true love. And as for Elena, the desperate mother who once worked with shame to feed her child, she found herself standing tall with dignity. Not because of wealth, but because she had given her heart to a man who had finally learned its true value. In the end, it wasn't money that saved them. It was love. And that love changed everything.